Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jane and today I'm going to talk about popular books that I think I won't like. The books that I'm going to talk about today are popular books that I will probably read because they are so popular, but those books, just popular books that I think I won't like. I'm sure we all have those kind of books that everyone talks about and you have something in you that wants to read this book but you still think that you won't like this book. Or is it just me? Because I do have a lot of books that I want to give them a chance. I just don't think that I will really love them. So I just thought to share those books with you today. So let's just start with the first book, which I'm pretty nervous to say that I think that I won't like it because everyone loved this book so much. But I'm talking about The House in the Cerulean Sea by E.J. Clone. Yes, I don't think that I'm going to like it. And yes, I know that everyone loves it. Now basically everyone says that this story feels like a middle grade for adults. And if you are not new to my channel, you know that I don't love middle grade. Like I usually don't read ever middle grade. So that's one reason why I think that I won't like this book. But basically the main reason is because everyone says that this book is just wholesome. It's the most sweet and cute thing that you will ever read. I do love sometimes reading books like this, but usually I don't really love books like this. I prefer the books with the fast-paced plot, with the betrayals, with the really hard stuff. I love when characters suffer in books. I love the villains. I love the bad things in books. Those bad things makes books for me really enjoyable. I love the plot. I read the books for the plot. And I feel from all the reviews that I see and read that this book is mainly character-driven book. And I did read books that are mainly character-driven that I really loved. Like especially romance. I feel like most of the romance that I read are more character-driven. So yes, I'm a plot-driven reader, but it doesn't mean that I won't like any character-driven story. I just feel like I won't connect to this book. Like nothing about it makes me interested to read it. And the only reason that I think to read it is because one, it's super popular. Like everyone talks about it. I feel like I have to read it. And two, I heard that the audiobook is really good. So I'm okay with reading it in audio. I feel like if I'm reading a book in an audiobook, it's much easier. But yes, I just don't think that I will really connect to the story. I feel like it will be just characters and everything happy and wholesome, which is cute and good, but it's not really the kind of books that I'm looking to read. Now, the second really popular book that I think I won't like is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I don't love reading books about mythologies. I don't know why. I don't have anything against mythologies. Like sometimes it's really interesting for me. I just usually don't like how books use mythologies. Just not a thing that I love to read. Now, it's been a while since I read my last book that is based on mythologies, so maybe my opinion will change. But every time that I read a synopsis of a book about mythologies, or every time that I see a book about mythologies, I usually don't want to read it. It doesn't excite me in any way. Now I am going to read some books about mythologies. I want to give it a chance, and Song of Achilles is one of them. But also Song of Achilles, every time that I read the synopsis, I just forget it. It doesn't interest me. I don't feel anything that makes me want to read this book. Like I just read the synopsis before I started to film this video, and I already don't remember what the story is about. It just doesn't appeal to me, but I do want to give it a chance because I hear so many good reviews. So hopefully I'm wrong. Now the next book is Shadow and Bone by Lee Bardugo, and like you can see I have a physical copy of this book because I do plan to read it, and it's actually a little bit of cheating because I read a little bit of the book. I read 100 pages I think a few months before I was in a reading slam, so I just left every book that I picked during my reading slam, and I do really want to keep reading it. But the reasons that I want to keep reading it isn't because I feel it's interesting. I do think that the world building is amazing from what I read so far. I really love the world building, but everything else, characters, the plot, just everything felt a little bit boring. And the reason that I'm going to keep reading it is because I want to read Six of Crows. And like, yes, I can read Six of Crows without reading Shadow and Bone. I do want to give this trilogy a chance, especially because maybe I will love the second and the fourth book, but I don't think that I will love the first one at all. Like I'm pretty sure that once I will actually read it, I will give it 1, 2 stars, maybe 3 max. And this isn't unpopular opinion because I actually see a lot of people say that Shadow and Bone isn't the best, but it's worth it to read Six of Crows. I really want to read Six of Crows, but I'm aiming to read Shadow and Bone first. I just will know better the world building, and the world building is the most interesting part in Shadow and Bone so far. So yes, this is a book that I will definitely read. I'm just not expecting good things. The next book is a book that I really want to read, and I'm really hoping that I'm wrong, but right now I think that I won't won't like it. And I'm talking about Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, Taylor Jenkins Reid is the author of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I loved. I read it only this month, and it's definitely one of the best books that I read in 2021. It was phenomenal. So of course, I really want to read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I'm really hoping to love it as much as I loved Evelyn Hugo. But basically, the story of Daisy Jones is following a rock band in the 70s, and their story and the story of the leading singer, Daisy. And I don't know why, something makes me not feel really excited about the plot of the book. Honestly, if I just saw this book without knowing who wrote this book, I wouldn't read it. The only reason that I want to read it is because Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote this book, so I really want to give it a chance. And again, I really hope that I'm wrong, but I don't know why. I feel that the plot of a rock band in the 70s is something that doesn't sound interesting to me in any way. And I don't have anything against rock or rock bands. I loved rock a few years ago, and I'm not listening to rock right now. My music taste really changed since then. So maybe this is the reason, because plot of a rock band just doesn't sound like something that I want to read. Maybe it's something that I would really love to read a few years ago, but right now, again, it doesn't excite me in any way. The only reason that I'm really excited to read this book is because Taylor Jenkins Reid, nothing else. I feel like the plot and everything will be less enjoyable to me than Evelyn Hugo, and again, I really hope to be wrong. It's another book that I hear so many good things about, but also I hear a lot of people say that they really loved Evelyn Hugo, but they didn't really love Daisy Jones. So I think I'm going to be one of those people. So yes, I will definitely read it. I really want to give it a chance. I just don't think that I will really love it. Now the next book is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Yes, I don't think that I'm going to love this book. Now I read Red, White and Royal Blue, finally. But it was one of the biggest disappointments of 2021 so far. It's sad. It's really sad. And I think that I'm going to feel the same way about One Last Stop. I even think that I'm going to love it less. Now Red, White and Royal Blue is a heavily character-driven story. I felt like there wasn't any interesting plot, and I liked the end because it was a little bit more intense, but I just was bored for most of the book. And now Red, White and Royal Blue is a book that I was really excited to read. I really thought that I'm going to love the characters, and in this book I actually don't feel like I'm really going to love the characters. Nothing about the synopsis, about the plot really interests me, and I bought this book before I read Red, White and Royal Blue, and if I read this book before, I wouldn't buy this one. Now, the only thing that makes me want to read this book is because this is sort of a magical realism. This is a romance story, a sapphic book, but there is time travel, so it makes it sound a little bit more interesting to me. And I think that the only way that I'm going to love this book, or at least like it, is if I will read it in a really specific mood. A mood to a really deep romance with deep characters. So no way that I'm going to read this book if I'm not in the perfect mood to read it, because otherwise I'm sure that I won't like it. Like, I'm sure. And I don't think that Red, White and Royal Blue was a bad book. The writing was nice. I really get why people love this book, and I really get why people also love this book. I just will read it only if I'm in the perfect mood for this kind of writing and story and characters. But I'm not sure that even this will help. But maybe I will really love this book. Really hope that I'm wrong in all the books that I talked about today, and that I will love them. I just don't think that I will love it. But I will probably read it because it's so popular. The next book is Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahoring. So the overall idea sounds so interesting. It's a YA fantasy series about witches, and people hunt those witches, or witches hunt them. Like, I can't really remember, but every time that I hear the idea, it sounds so cool. And the reason that I think that I won't like it is because I think it will be exactly those kind of YA books that will just feel childish and not enough mature to me. I got back into reading this past year after I was in a really huge reading slump, and since then most of the YA books that I read feels too young to me. So yes, I'm trying to read more adult books. I'm sure this will be the solution for this problem, but there is so many YA fantasy books that sounds so interesting to me, and this is one of them. But from the reviews I see, from everything that I hear about this book, it sounds like a book that is too YA, not enough mature. Now, I still really love YA, but I'm just so much more critical towards YA than adult books, so I just think it will be a waste of time for me. I won't enjoy it it as much as I could enjoy other books. But if you read those books and you think that I'm wrong, please tell me about any book that I talked about today, because again, I'm probably going to read most of those books in this list because they are so popular. I just don't expect to love any of those books. Now, the next book is the book that I will probably won't read. It has the most high chances from all this list that I won't read this book. And this book is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I actually really wanted to read this book. If you asked me a few months ago if I want to read this book, I would say to you, yes, definitely. But the reason is because it's so popular. And you know Sarah J. Maas. She's a really well-known author. And I know that not everyone loves her books, but I didn't read any book from Sarah J. Maas, and I want to give her books a chance. But Throne of Glass doesn't really sound interesting to me. If it wasn't from a really popular author, I just won't even look at this book. This book is basically about assassins, and the main character of the story is going to be an assassin or something like this. And I don't know why, but stories about assassins, at least right now, it doesn't really excite me as other books. Like if you're going to talk with me about witches, demons, angels, pirates, princesses, vampires, and a lot of other stuff, excite me so much more than assassins. Again, I don't know why. Just something that I don't really connect to, and it doesn't mean that I won't enjoy a story about assassins. I will just probably enjoy it less than other stories because other stuff and creatures and roles, other things makes me want to read a book so much more than assassins. So this is basically the main reason that I won't think that I will love this book, and I will probably won't read it because it's a part of a really long series, like a really long series. And I know that so many people say so many good things about this series, but it's a YA series, and because I'm so much more critical about YA this past year, I just won't read a YA series if I'm not sure that I'm going to love it. So yes, I just don't think that the whole concept of assassins is something that will make me really enjoy. So yes, those were the really popular books that I think I won't like. And again, I really hope to be wrong at some of those books because I don't have anything against those books. I just think that I personally wouldn't like them. And usually the books that I think that I will like the most, I really hate, and the opposite. So maybe because my expectations for those books are so low, maybe I will actually enjoy them. Like that's what I'm hoping will happen. It's always fun to not expect too much and then be really positively surprised. So yes, do you have some books that are really popular and that you want to read and give a chance, but you don't think you will really like them? Please tell me. I also really want to hear what those books are for you. I'm uploading 2 times a week on Sundays and Wednesdays, but until the next video you can check more videos by me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!